Hello you over 266,000 members of the Brohirrim and all of you who haven't subscribed yet. We are getting close to Halloween, so it feels like the perfect time for a chilling what if scenario. Today we're asking the question, what if Shelob, the monstrous spider of Cirith Ungol, had gotten her claws, or rather her fangs, on the One Ring? This is a horrifying thought. After all, Shelob is already terrifying enough on her own, an ancient and near immortal creature of immense power. But if she had wielded Sauron's ultimate weapon, well, the outcome would be, let's say, catastrophic. So, let's dive in and explore the terrifying possibilities.
Build me an army worthy of Mordor.
There age long she had dwelt, an evil thing in spider form, even such as once of old had lived in the land of the elves in the west that is now under the sea, such as Beren fought in the mountains of terror in Doriath, and so came to Luthien upon the green sward amid the hemlocks in the moonlight long ago. How Shelob came there, flying from ruin, no tales tell, for out of the dark years few tales have come, but still she was there, who was there before Sauron and before the first stone of Barad-dûr, and she served none but herself, drinking the blood of elves and men, bloated and grown fat with endless brooding on her feasts, weaving webs of shadow. For all living things were her food, and her vomit darkness. Far and wide her lesser broods, bastards of the miserable mates, her own offspring, that she slew, spread from glen to glen, from the Ethel Duath to the eastern hills, to Dol Guldur and the vastness of Mirkwood. But none could rival her, Shelob the Great, last child of Ungoliant to trouble the unhappy world. Before we dive into what could have happened if Shelob claimed the One Ring, let's take a moment to explore her background and her powers to kind of set the scene. Shelob isn't just any monster, she is a creature with a terrifying lineage. She is the last offspring of Ungoliant, an ancient being of darkness who once aided Morgoth in destroying the two trees of Valinor. Ungoliant herself consumed light, and her insatiable hunger could never be satisfied. Shelob, though lesser in power than her mother, inherited this dark hunger and power. By the time of the Lord of the Rings, Shelob had made her lair in the mountains of Cirith Ungol between Minas Morgul and Mordor. For centuries she devoured all who dared enter her domain. Her webs, capable of ensnaring even the mightiest, were not just physical traps. They symbolised her dominion over the pass, a crucial gateway to Mordor. Shelob's powers are numerous. Her venom is lethal, capable of paralysing her prey in an instant. She is intelligent, cunning, and capable of instilling fear in even the bravest of hearts. In fact, Sauron himself feared her to some degree. He allowed her to remain near Mordor not out of alliance, but because she served a purpose in keeping intruders away. It is important to note that Shelob's desire was not for conquest like Sauron. Her motives were simple and more primal. She wanted to feed, and nothing could satisfy that hunger. But what if that hunger met the most dangerous artifact in Middle-earth? The One Ring. Let's have a look. Darkness lay thick in the tunnels of Cirith Ungol, a suffocating blackness that pressed upon Frodo as he stumbled forward, weary and burdened by the weight of the One Ring. Unbeknownst to him, Shelob, the ancient spawn of Ungoliant, crept closer, her many eyes gleaming with malice, her monstrous form slinking through her webs with silent purpose. Frodo faltered, the weight of his burden becoming too much. The ring, a heavy chain around his neck, slipped from his grasp as his body gave in to exhaustion. "Mr. Frodo!" cried Sam, but it rolled, glinting faintly in the dim light, catching Shelob's attention. She paused, her foul breath heavy in the air as her eyes fell upon it. This was no mere trinket. For a moment, the great spider hesitated, her ancient mind pondering the nature of this strange, small object. Her hunger had always been simple, for flesh, for blood, for the despair of those she ensnared. But now something else stirred in her dark heart. not. A different hunger, more profound, more terrible. This awoke within her. Her many legs descended upon the ring, wrapping around it as though it were prey. A sudden surge of power coursed through her, ancient and dark, an extension of the malice that already filled her being. The One Ring had found a new bearer, and Shelob, in her monstrous simplicity, was not immune to its allure. In that instant, the creature who had long guarded the pass between Minas Morgul and Mordor was transformed. Her mind, once driven by primal hunger, expanded with the ring's malevolent will. She saw visions of endless dominion, webs stretching across the vast expanse of Middle-earth, ensnaring all within her shadow. Frodo and Sam, now paralysed in Shelob's web, unable to put up any resistance, could only watch as the creature devoured them whole, with the ring disappearing into her gaping maw. The once halfling's light was swallowed into darkness, and Shelob, now a creature of unimaginable power, turned her gaze outwards. Driven by the ring's lust for dominance, Shelob emerged from her lair, no longer content with her dark tunnels. The land before her trembled, for Shelob, now consumed by the ring's insidious will, sought more than mere sustenance. She sought control. First, she set her sights on the lands that lay at her doorstep. Minas Morgul, the dark city of the Nazgul. Her web, once confined to the shadowed pass of Cirith Ungol, now spread like a blight across the fields of Gorgoroth, ensnaring everything in her path. Orcs, men, anything alike were caught in her webs, struggling and writhing to escape, but none could resist her. The Witch King himself, leader of the Nazgul, gathering his army to march on Gondor, rode forth to confront her. But even he, mighty in his own right, was unprepared for the force that Shelob had become. With a single lash of her poisoned stinger, she struck him down. His black robes collapsed into a heap, and his spirit was torn from its undead form. The Nazgul fell, one by one, before her, their shrieks echoing into the darkened skies. Shelob, now queen of this desolate land, turned her gaze toward Mordor itself. The Dark Lord Sauron, sensing the disturbance, prepared his defences. Yet, even he underestimated the power Shelob now wielded. The ring, which had once been the instrument of his dominion, now served another. At the gates of Barad-dûr, Shelob arrived, her colossal form casting a shadow even over Sauron's great fortress. The Dark Lord appeared at the pinnacle of his tower, the eye of Sauron blazing with fury. But Shelob, empowered by the ring, was no longer a creature to be feared from the shadows. She was fear itself. The ground shook beneath her as she advanced, her webs creeping over the jagged black stones of Barad-dûr. Sauron unleashed his forces. Orcs, trolls, every terrifying creature that still remained in his lands. But all was swept aside by Shelob's relentless onslaught. Her hunger had transformed, no longer satisfied with mere flesh. She craved power, dominion over all life, and the ring urged her ever onward. As the eye of Sauron burned bright, Shelob struck. Her venom, now imbued with the ring's dark essence, pierced through the black walls of Barad-dûr. The tower, long a symbol of Sauron's might, began to crumble. The Dark Lord, sensing his imminent defeat, sought to reclaim the ring through sheer force of will, but it was now too late. Shelob, driven by her insatiable desire, resisted his pull, and with a final, earth-shaking blow, she brought the great tower down. Barad-dûr fell into ruin, and with it, Sauron's reign over Mordor. Shelob, now the undisputed ruler of the Dark Lands, spun her webs across Middle-earth, weaving a domain of shadows and despair. The free peoples, those who remained, lived in constant fear, for Shelob was no mere beast. She was the embodiment of hunger, of corruption, and now the ultimate power. She had become what her mother had teased. Under her reign, Middle-earth became a land of endless night. her web stretching from the far reaches of the north to the plains of Gondor. There was no escape, no light, only the suffocating darkness of her endless dominion. So I hope you like that what-if scenario, but of course there are other more speculative outcomes that we could also consider. For instance, Shelob, though powerful, might not have fully understood the ring's significance, or may not have even cared. She could have devoured Frodo without realising the power she had gained. In that scenario, she might not immediately be driven to conquer Middle-earth. Instead, the ring could amplify her natural instincts, allowing her to remain in her lair, but making her far more dangerous to anyone who approached. Think of it more like Gollum, who stayed in the Misty Mountains. She wouldn't bother to venture outside, but anyone who came in was almost certain to never leave. Her webs might even gain unnatural properties, ensnaring victims not just physically, but mentally. Anyone caught would be under her dominion, unable to escape her power. There's also the possibility that Shelob, though resistant to domination, might even fall under the influence of Sauron himself. While her primal instincts would make her resistant to the ring's typical forms of corruption, the Dark Lord might still be able to exert some control over her, using her as an immensely powerful weapon in his war against the Free Peoples, playing up to her insatiable hunger, saying that he could satisfy that. Sauron was still a master manipulator, and it's not black and white to say that she would be able to overpower him. However, in this case, the alliance between Sauron and Shelob would be fragile at best. Again, it harkens back to the story of Morgoth and Ungoliant. They were never true allies, and it didn't take a lot for them to go at each other. Shelob's hunger would always be a threat to Sauron's own power, and the two would likely turn on each other at some point, just like her mother and his master once did. And so there we have it. What would happen if Shelob had claimed the One Ring? The outcome would have been terrifying no matter how it played out. Whether Shelob waged a campaign of devastation across Middle-earth, engaged in a deadly power struggle with Sauron, or simply became a more potent and deadly force of evil within her lair, the world would have been plunged into a new age of darkness. The One Ring amplifies the worst traits in its wearer, and with Shelob, that trait is an insatiable hunger for power, control, and destruction. Middle-earth as we know it would have become her hunting ground, a place of webs, poison, and death. And as a subject to cover for Halloween, this one just felt fitting. And I would also like to take a moment at the end of this video today to give you a quick update on The Guard, the short film that we are creating. Everything is going amazing. We have just shot block 2, and the rest of it should hopefully be shot soon too. As always, it is all the money from our Patreon that is funding this. In essence, it is a no budget production if you consider the large scale of film, but every pound that you give is a massive help to create an incredible story. I'm putting a couple of shots on screen now and some behind the scenes clips to kind of give you an idea of what's going on. So if you would like to help support it a little bit more to help push us over the line, then please check out our Patreon. Every little bit really helps. And now it is time for my question of the day, which is, how do you think Shelob would have used the One Ring? Would she have become a force even for Sauron to fear, or would they have actually teamed up? Let me know your thoughts and opinions on this in the comments section down below. And of course, if you enjoyed this what if scenario and you would like to see more in the future, don't forget to let me know that in the comment section as well, while hitting that subscribe button so you can see them when they come out. And now it is time to give a massive thank you to our patrons who continue to support the channel. You are all amazing. And if you have reached the very end of this video with me today and you haven't subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. It would massively help us out. And why not drop a like on the video as well? And with that, all I can say is, thank you for spending just some of your time with me today, and I will see you next time on The Broken Sword.